I grabbed whatever camera I could find and brought it into the kitchen here because the other camera is staged up for something else. And so I wanted to show you what we're doing really quick. I'm not going to do detail, but if you want to check out another video, I will put a link right up here so that way you can go check out another video that has the salmon brine in it. So first thing I did was I took 2 cups of the pineapple juice. I put it in the microwave for a minute just to take off the coolness and to get it a little head start. And the rest of the pineapple juice is going to be reserved for cooling. Now I have the 1/4 cup of salt, and again this is either pickling salt or crush up your own non-iodized salt. This is the minimum amount for a batch of the salmon brine. You can go more. I am very sensitive to the amount of salt in my fish, and I don't like to over rinse it to remove this salt, so I want this to be what will work into the fish itself and still taste good. Now I'm going to swirl it around a little bit to get started. I have this on medium-high right now on my stove. That's setting 8. Then I'm going to add 1 pound, which is a half of a package of the dark brown sugar. Not every package is the same size, and when I can find 1 pound packages, I like to buy those at my local store. Most of the packages are 2 pound packages. I didn't measure that, but I folded it in half before I started, so I have a pretty good idea of where it is. And then I'll just seal that up. Now, we need 1 cup of honey. I have some gourmet honey here, and I'm going to use half of that and half of this. Honey will gel up as it sits, and real honey gels up even more, but it lasts forever. So all you have to do is just be careful how you use it. And then we're going to take this and we're going to pour that in. So I got about 4 ounces out of there, and we're going to get about 4 ounces out of here. As far as the honey goes, this is for flavoring, and it's not going to hurt anything if you go just a little over. That 4 ounces is going to be 1/3 of this jar. Just a little bit more. And I think we're good. And taste test it. Ah, yeah, that's awesome. That's the only way I like to eat biscuits. Now that I have all the ingredients in here, I'm going to bring this up to temperature. The idea is to stir it while it's coming up to temperature to get everything dissolved. Once the salt and the sugar are completely dissolved, you're done. You don't need to boil it. You don't need to do anything more than that. You're just looking for 100% of the product to be dissolved. So close. Just a little bit right across the middle. There we go. Now I'm going to go ahead and turn this off, and then I'm going to move it to a burner that is not heated. The next thing I will do, give this a little bit of a swirl so that way we make sure we get all those yummy bits of pineapple. And we'll dump all of this in there. Give it a quick stir. And now we're gonna let that rest for about 5 minutes, and then we're gonna ice it and put it somewhere cool. I like to put it in the freezer if I have space and I'm not worried about anything, but you can't take it hot directly to the freezer. It'll mess up the temperature inside your freezer and cause your freezer to get ice crystals all over it, and we don't want that. So let this sit for about 5 minutes, then you can ice it. So the brine mix is cooled now. I put it in the freezer for about an hour and got it down to a really nice safe temperature. Now here is some frozen salmon that I thawed out, and we have two different types of pieces here. This is a relatively straight cut. When I fillet my salmon, I cut it into pieces about this size, which makes a little bit more than what you would eat for a normal dinner. And then we'll go ahead and open that up. Now just for this example, I put a cutting board inside of a cookie sheet so that way I don't get a mess all over the place. This works really good. Now, if you look at this, I'm gonna go with about half of this. If the piece is a little bit larger, I would actually cut them a little bit smaller. So I'm gonna go ahead and just cut this straight down the middle. And then this one is really close to my preferred size right here, and we're not going to play with it much. We're just going to go ahead and put it in the brine. And this one is just a little bit larger than what I would like, but it's okay. Now this piece here is a front piece of the fillet, and the collar would be right here, and then you would have the gills and the gill plate. So it's kind of at an angle. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to split it and split the angle, so half of it is into one piece and half of it is into the other. And I'm just showing you this just as a basics. Now again, this piece right here is right on the large side. I wouldn't want to go any bigger to get a good smoke penetration. So I'll go ahead and put this in there, and then I'm going to do the rest of them off camera and toss this in the refrigerator overnight. It needs to sit in there for at least 12 hours, and I want to turn it at least twice. So after about 4 hours, I'm going to get in there and I'm going to flip it all over. And then right before bed, I'll do the same. So I'll try to do it at about, well, it's probably not going to be exactly the amount of time I want, but I'll try to do it at about, say, 5 and 8. And then tomorrow morning, it'll be ready to go in the smoker, and hopefully we'll be able to get it done in one day and see how that goes from there. It's the next day, and our salmon has completed its brining process. Now I did flip it twice, and I checked it first thing this morning, and it looked pretty good. There was a couple of pieces that needed a little bit more rotation, so I went ahead and rotated those out. I find the easiest way to do this is to take a complete other container and transfer all of the salmon into the other container, and in this case it's my pan, and then transfer the liquid on top. That way you take everything that's on the top and it ends up on the bottom, and you don't have to repeat the process. Of course, you could take it out, or you could just put your hands in there and mix it. If you do have soft salmon, that could damage the salmon chunks. So let's go ahead and pull out the plate and then the tray that I use to keep the salmon submerged. I'm going to show you this, and then I'm going to go ahead and drain it in the sink. Just full of liquid right up to the top. Now, right now, I have the salmon soaking in a little bit of fresh water. I don't want to rinse it completely. I just want to get a little bit of that salt off the surface, and that way it won't be quite as salty. Now, you don't have to do that. I use the minimum amount of salt on here, and you can easily use more. But I am very sensitive to salt, so I like to go as light as possible. And the best way to do that is after you're done brining whatever your food may be it chicken or salmon or whatever, then just give it a little bit of a rinse. With salmon, because of the soft texture of it, I like to just let it sit in some fresh water for a minute or two, give it a light toss, and then dump out the water, and that's good enough. So I've completed rinsing the salmon, and now if you take a look at it, when we put it in, it was slightly orange, and now it's almost red and opaque a little bit, and that is the sign of a cured salmon. Now, I'll just set this to the side for a second. So these are the trays for our Big Chief front load smoker that we're going to be using today. And I just set these into a sheet pan with a drying rack just to prep. You don't have to do all of that. If you want to just do it over your sink or whatever, that works fine. This way I can carry these pans out and load them into the smoker one at a time and not get any mess on the house or anything like that. It also depends on, you know, how convenient your smoker is. Mine's way over there. Then the next thing I do is I'm going to lay down a grill mat. Now you could use the pop-up parchment paper or just regular parchment paper and cut it. I find the pop-up works well because then I can just pop it out there and I give a little fold on the end and it just stays in place. And then I usually take a knife, and I'll show you. I usually take a small paring knife, and let's remove the grill tray. And then I just go like this. The idea is to create holes in the parchment paper without ruining the integrity of it, so that way if there's any pooling of liquid, it can just drop through. Now, those holes could be a little bit larger, but we're pretty close there. You could see some of them, but again, I just showed you this for an example. I'm not going to use this today. Go ahead and place one of the grill mats back on there. And then I'm going to try to put pieces of salmon of similar size on one tray. When I do it, I want to be able to get my pinky between the pieces. Take a break and be right back while I finish this up. So I've laid out all the salmon, and the reason I put them of similar size is because each tray will cook a particular way, and I want to be able to pull out the whole tray at one time and have similar results. Now, you're never going to get it all exactly where every tray has the same thing, but if you see, some of my larger chunky pieces are in here, and most of my thin pieces are in here, and then all the salmon bellies are on the last tray. Now I'm going to go ahead and coat that. Now would be a good time to preheat your smoker if you have not already done that. So before you do that, run outside, plug your smoker in real quick if you're using an electric, or if you had a manual smoker where you're actually going to be tending it, you probably wanted to do that a little bit earlier. I went ahead and put some brown sugar in a bowl to avoid cross-contamination. Now I have that whole half a bag sitting over there, and the idea is that if I need more, I can just pour a little bit more in the bowl and I don't have to worry about ruining the whole bag of brown sugar. This is about a half a pound. Now if you take a look, I tried to lay it right down the middle, mostly on the top. I'm not worried about right around the edges because it's going to melt and spread itself. So we're just going to kind of put a line right down the middle. And you could use a spoon or something like this, some kind of device to do this. But you see, it's just a line right down the middle, and the brown sugar will take care of itself. Now you can see I have all the brown sugar spread out there, and again, it's just going to melt right into the salmon. I'm going to go ahead and take this glove off. And then we're going to swirl about 2 lines of honey on every piece. Okay, I've got all the honey and the brown sugar on there. Now this is the point where you might want to put some seasoning on individual pieces. Sometimes I'll use some of the Spice Hunter Cajun mix on a few pieces, or just some black pepper. Now you can do whatever your favorite seasoning is. Do remember that if you season a bunch on some of these pieces, you want to make sure it's lower in your smoker because you don't want it dropping on the other pieces as it smokes. So that's the end of the process for prepping this salmon. Next, we have to smoke it.